How do everybody? So I've got two stories here which I think are going to highlight brilliantly as examples of two-tiered policing and the two-tiered justice system that we do actually have operating in the United Kingdom. They are only short stories. I will read through them both and then we'll get on to having a little bit of a discussion about just how ludicrous it is, especially with some of the arrests that have been happening over the last few weeks in regards to the rioting that was going on. Keep that in mind, by the way, and I'm not going to link to any of them. I will link to these two stories for you to read at your own leisure if you want. Obviously, there's enough information out there for you. Plenty in the news about people getting arrested for rioting, but we will discuss it. You can find those yourself. But anyway, here we go. So this is from the Sunderland Echo. Civil servant caught with sickening child abuse images featuring children as young as 6 months. So straight away, we know we are dealing with an absolute mega nonce here. You know, it's bad enough when somebody's getting involved with, say, 13 or 14-year-olds, but when you're talking about children as young as 6 months, that is somebody in my head who needs to be facing the gallows. And yes, I do fully support the reintroduction of the death penalty for nonces. So, a civil servant was caught with a sickening stash of child abuse images featuring victims as young as 6 months old. Police raided Team Tuti's home in Horton in April last year and seized his internet devices after a tip-off about his activity on Facebook. So this guy sounds like he wasn't really trying to hide it in any sort of significant way, shape or form, especially if people are tipping him off on Facebook. And for my mind, as I've already said, I do think that we should have a reintroduction of the death penalty for absolutely disgusting perverts like this. You know, it's one, and by the way, I want to be clear on that. If there's any doubt whatsoever, we shouldn't be. But when you are actually getting hold of somebody's electronic devices and it's full of this sort of material, there isn't really any credible way of denying that. Unless, say, it's come through a WhatsApp group, I don't know, and it's downloaded onto the phone and it's in the internal storage memory, but you can tell that the person has actually tried to delete it from the memory and it remains in. The way I understand memories being is that when something's deleted, it doesn't actually delete it, it just marks that part of the memory for overwriting at a later date, which is how I believe the police can find things that have supposedly been deleted off a hard drive. So, you know, you can tell if somebody's actually tried to delete it or not, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I doubt very much that this man's got these things were deleted items, and I believe they were there for his own perusing. Newcastle Crown Court, get my words back in my mouth. Newcastle Crown Court heard a total of 239 pictures and 3 videos were found on the married dad's mobile phone. Now, for me, that does not sound like this is a man who has accidentally been or had things sent to him unwillingly. And if, by the way, if somebody was sending, if I was in part of a group like that, and somebody was sending images like that, well, not only would I be deleting those images, but I'd also be reporting that person myself to the police, and I'd be leaving that group and blocking that person. So to end up with 239 pictures and 3 videos sounds like this is a man who actually enjoys those things. Absolutely disgusting. Prosecutor Neil Jones told the court the images were across all 3 categories of seriousness and said the age of children contained in the images ranged from 6 months old to 15 years old. I mean, that's just absolutely disgusting. I mean, it's vile, that. That really is violent, and like I say, there's no excuse for it, firstly, and secondly, as I've already said twice now in this video, and I'll say it once again, this is what we need the death penalty back for, because in order for him to have those pictures on his phone of a 6-month-old child, a 6-month-old child has to have been sexually abused for that to happen. You know, that is not a victimless crime. You might say, well, Dave, he's not actually done it himself. He's just received those videos and pictures. And, you know, what's the harm in that at the end of the day if the pictures have already been made? Well, he's creating a consumer market for that type of material just by engaging in it. He's creating demand for people to go out and produce that type of material, which means they're going to go out and get more victims to produce more material. It's not a hard concept to understand, so the law should come down with full force on people like that, and we should change the law, like I say, to have people like him swinging in the gallows. That is my honest held belief, and I will not back down on that. I'm afraid there is not a single word you could say to me that will convince me otherwise. I'm afraid nonsense should get the noose. 2T41, now Clifton Road, Newcastle, admitted 3 charges of making indecent photographs of children. Now, for people who don't understand what that means, you might think, well, he's made those pictures. It doesn't mean he's actually taken pictures of children. Making a picture can be you've taken a screen grab off the internet, as an example. You have then made a picture, so that can be misunderstood by people. So just to be fair to him, he doesn't mean he's taken those pictures of the victims. He may have copied them or downloaded him onto his phone or whatever. That is my understanding of what making a picture can be. So it doesn't necessarily mean he is actually victimised an individual directly. The court heard Tootie had never been in trouble before and is employed at the Department of Work and Pensions in an office-based role. Sophie Johnson, defending, said Tootie's mental health was in... I don't care if his mental health was in... I've had bad mental health before, and I've never wanted to get all the bloody paedophilic material. There is absolutely no excuse for that whatsoever. You know, you still have full control over yourself no matter how mentally unwell you are. Mental health was in decline at the same time as offending and told the court, this is unsavoury offending and this is a man who is actually aware of that. I'm afraid Sophie Johnston, who was defending him, has done a terrible job there and she should not have been trying to justify it in any way, shape or form. I know that you have a duty to represent people, you should represent them truthfully and accurately, and trying to make excuses for absolutely disgusting behaviour like that really, in my opinion, makes her a disgusting human being as well. I don't care what her job is. That is my opinion, by the way. I'm going to be very clear on that. This time, 3 years ago, he would never have thought his life would be his life. He had everything he ever wanted, but he has, by his own doing, lost that now. Yeah, he has done it absolutely deservedly so. And you know what? Before a serial killer becomes a serial killer, they're a good, upstanding person until they start killing people. You could say that about any type of criminal and any type of crime. Yeah, we know this guy went out and killed 1,000 people, but before he killed the first person, he was a good, upstanding person, and his life was doing well up until he killed that first person. And, you know, it just went upside down from that point, and he just carried on. You know, I mean, it's not his fault. He was mentally unwell. You know, it happens. It happens. Now, F off. What a piss poor excuse. Absolute piss poor excuse. You know, there is no excusing that type of behaviour. The court heard Tootie is now separated from his wife, well, good for her, and was told to leave the family home, rightly so. He may also lose his job. There should be no may about it. He absolutely should lose his job. Mystery Recorder David Gordon told the court sometimes it is said that offending of this sort is criminal offending, but without a victim. That is completely untrue. 100% agree. And thank you, Mr. David Gordon, the recorder of the court. All the children in each one of these images and movies is very likely to have experienced significant psychological, physical and sexual harm as a result of their experiences. 100% true, and I 100% agree with him, which is why he is just as bad as the people who are actually producing those disgusting pieces of material. Recorder Gordon said the damage done to the victims is likely to be serious and lifelong, and told Tootie, if it weren't for those people such as yourself with an appetite for and deprived interest in such images and prepared to download them from the internet, perhaps those who abuse the children and take the images of the children being abused would be less inclined to do so. Totally true. Recorder Gordon said he accepted Tootie is genuinely ashamed. But I think he's genuinely ashamed that he's been caught, not about the actual crimes myself. That's my feeling about this. I think if he was genuinely ashamed, he would have stopped after he downloaded his first image and thought, this is wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing it again. Maybe I should go get some mental health help. But he didn't. He carried on, didn't he? And said he had a good prospect of rehabilitation in the community. Tootie was sentenced to 12 months, suspended for 2 years, which means he's not going to prison, and so long as he keeps his nose clean for 2 years, he won't go to prison, with the rehabilitation requirements and 200 hours unpaid work. He was ordered to sign the sex offenders register and abide by a sexual harm prevention order for 10 years. So this man has got actual victims. He's committed actual crimes. This has been proven in court, not gone to prison. Now, we have people who, during these so-called riots, have posted words online, which may or may not be unsavoury, depending on who hears them and who is the reader, have gone to prison for multiple years. We even have a military veteran who stood at a riot, didn't engage in any rioting, just stood there, was lifted by the police. The judge even admitted he's done nothing wrong and said that he provides him with a huge problem, but he has to have a custodial sentence. He's gone to prison for 12 months. You tell me how that is not two-tiered system. You please explain to me how that's right. Because all I can see there is a foreign man getting off with the disgusting and depraved crime, whilst British people, indigenous Britons, are going to prison for voicing their opinions and being upset at the state of the country. That's what I see, and this is how I read into it. Now, I know there may be plenty of legal professionals who may disagree with me there, but I'm sorry, I think you're wrong. And I think you're so bought into the system that you're unable to see the truth of it. And this is why we have jury trials, by the way, because the whole point of a jury is that the people who started our legal system understood through biblical text, by the way, that people aren't perfect. and that actually systems can become institutionalized. And you see, the problem with that is that you have people who spend so many years inside the courts and legal system start to believe their own BS, that they bounce off each other. And then they then, as I say, become institutionalised, which is why you need juries to come in to look at this and go, no, actually, you're wrong in how you read. Apologies if the screens appear to have jumped. I've just had to plug my cable in. Battery went very low then whilst we were recording. So back onto what I was saying. Yeah, that's why we have a jury of our peers, because our ancestors understood just how flawed human beings are and the damage that institutionalisation within a framework or an institution can cause and undermine the function of a society. So it's very, very important that you do get a jury trial, especially with serious things like this. I think that's the big mistake that a lot of these people are making. They're just going to magistrates' courts. And I believe that the magistrates are trying to intimidate them into pleading guilty by saying, well, we're not going to give you bail and you'll end up spending more time in bail than you will actually if you just go to prison. You know, and a lot of BS like that. So I think that's a big part of this problem as well, is that people aren't getting real justice from the system. I think my understanding seems to be, although this isn't 100%, this may not be factually correct, I could be wrong, but I do believe that the magistrates are not serving real justice. But anyway, that will be found in time. I do think we'll start seeing a lot of court cases coming from these cases themselves for the abuse of power, and hopefully some of these magistrates will start getting sacked. I think I'm going to do a video on some of these judges as well very soon. There's a Twitter page that's been showing some decisions that some of these magistrates have been making and we're talking like a week before sentencing some of these so-called rioters for insane amounts of time. For example, letting sex offenders walk out of the courts. I won't say any more than that at the moment, but I think I'm going to do a video on that. But anyway, here's another example of two-tiered policing in action. So both of these stories, by the way, that last story was from 14th of August, so very recently. This new story is 16th of August, so again, very, very recent, very, very relevant to two-tiered justice. So, rapper to face trial over Tommy Robinson video. A rapper from Birmingham is set to face trial after posing an allegedly menacing video mentioning Tommy Robinson. Omar Abdrizak, known as Twister Cheese, pleaded not guilty to sending a grossly offensive or menacing message via public communications network at the city's magistrate court on Friday. A previous charge of conveying false information was dropped. The 30-year-old from Sparkbrook, Birmingham, was granted unconditional bail until the trial on 8th of January. Now, as I've just said, I don't believe that any of these people involved in riots have been offered bail. I believe that they've all been told they'll be remanded in custody if they were to plead not guilty. So there straight away is you've got a massive amount of two-tier justice straight away. Mr. Abdrizak is alleged to have made the video he posted on social media between 1st and 10th of August before it was shared by Mr. Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, on X. In court, the accused was told police officers would be the sole witness at the forthcoming trial. Well, I don't know how I feel about that, only being allowed to have police officers as the sole witnesses. And I believe, although I haven't seen the video, I do believe that what it was a rap song where he was threatening to kill or hurt Tommy Robinson and possibly his family as well. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that is what it was about. So why is it that a man can make menacing videos threatening who knows what about somebody and he can get bail, and then you get other people, like one man's been sentenced, I think, to 3 years for saying that he didn't want to pay for foreign rapists in the country? Please explain that to me, how that makes sense. Because I don't understand how that makes sense. I can't make sense of that at all in my own mind, apart from feeling that the actual legal and justice system is against the indigenous population and that they do have a fetishisation for people who are of a foreign appearance. As this individual, he may have been born in the country, I don't know, but he is certainly not of Anglo-Saxon descent, to put it politely. Anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. If you found that interesting, informative, useful in any way, please do like, subscribe, put a comment below if you agree with me, if you don't. I'm quite happy to if you can prove me wrong, by the way, I'm quite happy to change my mind. So please, if you do disagree with me and your arguments are strong enough, please, please, please do put them below. I'm not here to, I'm not a closed book. I am happy. I am a reasonable person, believe it or not, and I am willing to listen to different points of view if they are strong enough. So anyway, thank you for your time and goodbye.